Hello, welcome back. Let's read some more. I tried to record some video in my language Danish about the history of the cars. I've been reading about the wheels, invention of the wheels. Now I will read about different kind of horse wagons like chariots. But I don't know how to translate this to Danish. But there's different kind of charts, different kind of wagons, bullock charts, wagons, living van, stage wagon, carriage, but stagecoach. I don't know how to translate to Danish. But I think this chariot, that's a war wagon you use in war, like bow and arrows and spikes, long spikes and swords. But let's read about it. So the invention of the wheel is many thousands of years old. And wagons for horses. That invention is many thousands of years old.
Chariot. A vase discovered in southeastern Iran dating back to 2000 BC shows a warrior riding a chariot pulled by a horse. Reconstructed Roman chariot drawn by horses. Approximate historical map of the spread of the spoke-wheeled chariot. 2500 BCE. A chariot is a type of cart driven by a charioteer, usually using horses. Note 1. To provide rapid motive power. The oldest known chariots have been found in burials of the Sintashta culture in modern-day Chelyabinsk Oblast, Russia. Dated to c. 1950-1880 BCE, 1, 2, and on cylinder seals from central Anatolia in Kultep dated to c. 1900 BCE. 2. The critical invention that allowed the construction of light, horse-drawn chariots was the spoked wheel. The chariot was a fast, light, open, two-wheeled conveyance drawn by two or more equids, usually horses, that were edged side by side, and was little more than a floor, with a waist-high guard at the front and sides. It was initially used for ancient warfare during the Bronze and Iron Ages, but after its military capabilities had been superseded by light and heavy cavalries, chariots continued to be used for travel and transport, in processions, for games, and in races. Etymology. The word chariot comes from the Latin term carus, a loan word from Gaulish. In ancient Rome, a bigger described a chariot requiring two horses, a trigger 3, and a quadriga 4. Origins at the Eurasian steppe. The invention of the wheel used in transportation most likely took place in the Eurasian steppes of modern-day Russia and Ukraine. Evidence of wheeled vehicles appears from the mid-40th millennium BC near simultaneously in the northern Caucasus, Makope culture, and in Central Europe. These earliest vehicles may have been ox carts. 3. A necessary precursor to the invention of the chariot is the domestication of animals, specifically horses, a major step in the development of civilization. Despite the large impact horse domestication has had in transport and communication, tracing its origins has been challenging. 4. Evidence supports horses having been domesticated in the Eurasian steppes, with studies suggesting the Botai culture in modern-day Kazakhstan were the first, about 3500 BCE. 4. Others say horses were domesticated earlier than 3500 BCE in Eastern Europe, modern Ukraine and Western Kazakhstan, 6,000 years ago. 5. Han Dynasty bronze models of cavalry and chariots. The spread of spoke-wheeled chariots has been closely associated with early Indo-Iranian migrations. 6. The earliest known chariot shave been found in Sintashta culture burial sites, and the culture is considered a strong candidate for the origin of the technology which spread throughout the Old World and played an important role in ancient warfare. 1. It is also strongly associated with the ancestors of modern domestic horses, the Dom-2 population. Dom-2 horses originated from the western Eurasia steppes, especially the lower Volga Don, but not in Anatolia, during the late 4th and early 3rd millennia BCE. Their genes may show selection for easier domestication and stronger backs. 7. These Aryan people migrated southward into South Asia, ushering in the Vedic period around 1750 BCE. Shortly after this, about 1700 BCE, evidence of chariots appears in Asia Minor. 8. The earliest fully developed spoke-wheeled horse chariots are from the chariot burials of the Andronovo, timber grave, sites of the Sintashta Petrovka Proto-Indo-Iranian culture in modern Russia and Kazakhstan from around 2000 BCE. 1. This culture is at least partially derived from the earlier Yamna culture. It built heavily fortified settlements, engaged in bronze metallurgy on an industrial scale, and practiced complex burial rituals reminiscent of Hindu rituals known from the Rigveda and the Avesta. Over the next few centuries, the Andronovo culture spread across the steppes from the Urals to the Tian Shan, likely corresponding to the time of early Indo-Iranian cultures. Not everyone agrees that the Sintashta culture vehicle finds are true chariots. In 1996, Just Crowell and Mary Aiken Litauer wrote, "Let us consider what is actually known of the Sintashta and Krivo-Osro vehicles." At Sintashta, there remained only the imprints of the lower parts of the wheels in their slots in the floor of the burial chamber. Krivo-Osro also preserved imprints of parts of the axle and naves. At Sintashta, the wheel tracks and their position relative to the walls of the tomb chamber limited the dimensions of the naves, hence the stability of the vehicle. Ancient naves were symmetrical, the part outside the spokes of equal length to that inside. The presenter constructions of the Sintashta and Krivo-Osro vehicles above the axle level raise many doubts and questions, but one cannot argue about something for which there is no evidence. It is from the wheel track measurements and the dimensions and positions of the wheels alone that we may legitimately draw conclusions, and these are alone sufficient to establish that the Sintashta Petrovka vehicles would not be maneuverable enough for use either in warfare or in racing. 9. Peter Ulwing and Stefan Burmeister consider the Sintashta and Krivo-Osro finds from the steppe to be carts rather than chariots. However, recent discoveries in the Eurasian steppe have provided fresh support to the claim that the chariot originated there, rather than in the Near East itself, and may be attributed to speakers of an Indo-Iranian, or Indo-Aryan, language. In particular, archaeological remains of horse gear and spoked-wheeled vehicles have been found at the sites of Sintashta, Russia, and Krivo-Osro, northern Kazakhstan, with calibrated radiocarbon dating to ca. 1800. These finds, however, provide evidence of a two-wheeled spoked cart that does not fit the definition of the ancient Near Eastern chariot. Before these discoveries can help answer the question of where the chariot originated, thorough studies of the spoked-wheeled vehicles and horse gear of the steppes, as well as of interconnections and transfer of knowledge, are necessary. Compare Epimachev and Kajakova in Fanzer and Burmeister 2004. 10. Spread by Indo-Europeans. The area of the spoke-wheeled chariot finds within the Sintashta Petrovka Proto-Indo-Iranian culture is indicated in purple. Chariots figure prominently in Indo-Iranian mythology. Chariots are also an important part of both Hindu and Persian mythology, with most of the gods in their pantheon portrayed as riding them. The Sanskrit word for a chariot is ratha, which is cognate with the Western Ra, also and in origin a substantiation of the adjective Proto-Indo-European *ho, meaning having wheels, with the characteristic accent shift found in Indo-Iranian substantivizations. This adjective is in turn derived from the collective noun *rote, wheels, continued in Latin rota, which belongs to the noun *roto, for wheel, from *ret to run. That is also found in Germanic, Celtic and Baltic, Old High German ran, Old Irish rothem, Lithuanian ratasem. 11. Nomadic tribes of Pontic steppes, like Scythians such as Hamaxobii, would travel in wagons, carts, and chariots during their migrations. Hittites. Hittite chariot, drawing of an Egyptian relief. The oldest testimony of chariot warfare in the ancient Near East is Old Hittite Anita text, 18th century BCE, which mentions 40 teams of horses, in the original cuneiform spelling, 40 imtian.kur.ri.o, at the siege of Salatiwera. Since the text mentions teams rather than chariots, the existence of chariots in the 18th century BCE is uncertain. The first certain attestation of chariots in the Hittite Empire dates to the late 17th century BCE, Hattusili. A Hittite horse training text is attributed to Kikuli the Mitanni, 15th century BCE. The Hittites were renowned charioteers. They developed a new chariot design that had lighter wheels, with 4 spokes rather than 8, and that held 3 rather than 2 warriors. It could hold 3 warriors because the wheel was placed in the middle of the chariot and not at the back as in Egyptian chariots. Typically one Hittite warrior steered the chariot while the second man was usually the main archer. The third warrior would either wield a spear or sword when charging at enemies, or hold up a large shield to protect himself and the others from enemy arrows. Hittite prosperity largely depended on their control of trade routes and natural resources, specifically metals. As the Hittites gained dominion over Mesopotamia, tensions flared among the neighboring Assyrians, Hurrians, and Egyptians. Under Suppiluliuma I, the Hittites conquered Kadesh and, eventually, the whole of Syria. The Battle of Kadesh in 1274 BCE is likely to have been the largest chariot battle ever fought, involving over 5,000 chariots. 12. Bronze Age India. Copper sculpture of a bull cart and rider, from a hoard at Damabad, Maharashtra, late Harappan, c. 2000 BCE. Copper-plated, solid-wheeled chariot discovered c. Nauli, c. 1865-1550 BCE. Chariot detail at Airavatesvara temple built by Rajaraja Chola II of Chola Empire in the 12th century CE. Models of single-axled, solid-wheeled, ox-drawn vehicles, have been found at several mature Indus Valley sites, such as Shanhudero, Damabad, Harappa, and Norshiro, 13, and are depicted in 2nd millennium BCE. Chalcolithic rock art, of Virgin. 14, spoked-wheeled, horse-drawn, chariots, often carrying an armed passenger, are depicted in 2nd millennium BCE. Chalcolithic period rock paintings. Note 2. Examples are No from Chibanula, Chhapojnath Nulla, and Kathoshia. 18, 14. There are some depictions of chariots among the petroglyphs in the Sandstone of the Vintoye range. 2 depictions of chariots are found in Mohanapaha, Mirzapur district. One depicts a bigger and the head of the driver. The second depicts a quadriga, with 6-spoked wheels, and a driver standing up in a large chariot box. This chariot is being attacked. One figure, who is armed with a shield and a mace, stands in the chariot's path. Another figure, who is armed with bow and arrow, threatens the right flank. It has been suggested, speculated, that the drawings record a story, most probably dating to the early centuries BCE, from some center in the area of the Ganges-Yamuna plain into the territory of still Neolithic hunting rights. 19. The very realistic chariots carved into the Sanchi stupas are dated to roughly the 1st century. Bronze Age solid disc wheel carts were found in 2018 at Sinauli. 20, which were interpreted by some as horse-pulled chariots predating the arrival of the horse-centered Indo-Aryans. 21, 20, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, Note 3. They were ascribed by Sanjay Manjul, director of the excavations, to the ochre-colored pottery culture, OCP/copper hoard culture, which was contemporaneous with the late Harappan culture, Web 4, Web 1, Note 4, and interpreted by him as horse-bullet chariots. Web 5, Web 1. Majul further noted that the rituals relating to Sanauli burials showed close affinity with Vedic rituals, Web 1, and stated that the dating of the Mahabharata is around 1750 BCE. Web 5. According to Arskopapola, these finds were ox-pulled carts, indicating that these burials are related to an early Aryan migration of Proto-Indo-Iranian speaking people into the Indian subcontinent. 22, forming then the ruling elite of a major late Harappan settlement. 23. Horse-drawn chariots, as well as their cult and associated rituals, were spread by the Indo-Iranians. 6. And horses and horse-drawn chariots were introduced in India by the Indo-Aryans. 24, 25, 26. In religion. In Rigveda, Indra is described as strong-willed, armed with a thunderbolt, riding a chariot. Stone model of a twin-axle, elephant-drawn, vehicle, at Hampi, built under the Vijayanagara Empire, early 16th century CE. Krishna Arjun Rath monument at Brahma Sarovar. Bronze statue, by Ram V. and Anala Sutta, 2008. May the strong heaven make thee the strong one stronger, strong, for thou art born by thy two strong bay horses. So, fair of cheek, with mighty chariot mighty, uphold us, strong-willed, thunder-armed, in battle. Rigveda, Book 5, Hymn V. Griffith, 27, among Rigvedic deities, notably the Vedic sun god Surya rides in a one-spoked chariot driven by his charioteer Arua. Ushas, Thedorn, rides in a chariot, as well as Agni in his function as a messenger between gods and men. The Jain Bhagavi Sutra states that Indian troops used a chariot with a club or mace attached to it during the war against the Lichavis during the reign of Ajatashatru of Magadha. 28, 29, Persia. Impression of a cylinder seal of King Darius the Great hunting in a chariot. A golden chariot made during a Achaemenid Empire, 550–330 BCE. The Persians succeeded Elam in the mid-1st millennium. They may have been the first to yoke for horses to their chariots. They also used scythed chariots. Cyrus the Younger employed these chariots in large numbers at the Battle of Cunaxa. Herodotus mentions that the ancient Libyan and the ancient Indian, Satyajidya, Gandhara and Hindus satrapies supplied cavalry and chariots to Xerxes the Great's army. However, by this time, cavalry was far more effective and agile than the chariot, and the defeat of Darius III at the Battle of Gaugamela, 331 BCE, where the army of Alexander simply opened their lines and let the chariots pass and attacked them from behind, marked the end of the era of chariot warfare, barring the Seleucid and Pontic powers, India, China, and Celtic peoples. Introduction in the Near East. Chariots were introduced in the Near East in the 17, 18, th 16th centuries BCE. 30. Some scholars argue that the horse chariot was most likely a product of the ancient Near East early in the 2nd millennium BCE. 31. Archaeologist Joost Crowell writes that chariots were not sudden inventions. but developed out of earlier vehicles that were mounted on disc or crossbar wheels. This development can best be traced in the Near East, where spoke-wheeled and horse-drawn chariots are first attested in the earlier part of the 2nd millennium BC, and were illustrated on Assyrian cylinder seal dated to either the 18th or 17th century BCE. 32. Mako culture. Stereochus